Have you ever seen something on your phone that just shattered your whole world? That's what happened to Layla. She was scrolling through social media during her lunch break when a photo stopped her cold. It was her ex-boyfriend, David. He was smiling, his arm wrapped around a beautiful woman named Isabel. The caption underneath read, "Found my forever. She's perfect." The word perfect hit Layla like a physical blow. It had only been 3 months since David ended their relationship. He told her she didn't fit his polished corporate life. Now, he had publicly declared he found someone who did. A hot wave of humiliation washed over her, followed by fierce anger. She couldn't let him see her heartbroken. She couldn't let him win. She needed armor. She needed a lie so convincing it would become her truth for one night. Her desperate eyes scanned the open-plan office, searching for a solution. They landed on Leo, the quiet graphic designer in the corner. He was the opposite of David's loud world, gentle, calm, and safe. In that moment, he was her only hope. Without overthinking, she walked to his desk. He looked up from his computer, his warm brown eyes curious. "Leo," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to ask you for the biggest favor of my life." "Of course," he replied, his tone steady. "What's wrong?" She took a shaky breath. "My ex is throwing a party this weekend. He's bringing his new perfect girlfriend. I can't show up there alone looking pathetic. I need everyone to see that I've moved on, that I'm happy, thriving even." Leo listened patiently. "How can I help?" "I need you to be my date," Layla stated. "But not just a date. I need you to be my boyfriend. For one night, I need you to be the most charming, successful, and completely devoted man in the room. Can you do that?" The silence that followed was heavy. Leo didn't laugh or refuse. He simply studied her. For a brief moment, Layla saw a flash of something deep in his eyes. Not surprise, but something like understanding. Then it was gone. He leaned back in his chair, a thoughtful look on his face. Then he asked a single, quiet question that changed everything. "Tell me," he said. "Who do you need me to be?" Layla could only stare, her mind reeling. He was actually agreeing. So what would you do if you were in Layla's shoes? Let us know in the comments. Now you're probably wondering, will her plan work? And why did Leo agree so quickly? Stick with us because this story gets so good. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories. Now let's get back to it. And in that moment, a terrifying thought crossed Layla's mind. She had just started a game of pretend, completely unaware that one of them was already playing a part. The week before the party felt like a strange dream. Layla became a director and Leo was her lead actor. She gave him his backstory, a successful freelance art director who traveled the world for fancy clients. She drilled him on fake project names and fake cities he'd supposedly visited. And Leo, he was a natural. He remembered every single detail. When they practiced being a couple, a light touch on the arm, a shared look, it felt surprisingly convincing. A small, nervous voice in Layla's head whispered, "Why is he so good at this?" Finally, the night arrived. Standing outside the glamorous rooftop bar, Layla's courage vanished. The sounds of music and laughter from inside sounded like a threat. "Maybe this is a huge mistake," she whispered, her clutch feeling slippery in her sweaty hands. Leo turned to her. He looked different in his suit, not just handsome, but solid and confident. For the first time, his calmness felt like strength, not just quietness. "It's just a few hours," he said, his voice steady. "Just follow my lead," he offered her his arm. She hesitated for a second, then took it. The moment they stepped inside, all eyes turned to them. The music seemed to fade, and there, near the bar, was David. His smile froze when he saw Layla. Then his eyes snapped to Leo, and his expression turned sharp and calculating. Leo's performance was perfect. He wasn't over the top. He kept his hand resting gently on Layla's lower back, a simple touch that felt both protective and possessive. When David finally made his way over with Isabel following him, Layla forced her smile to stay bright. "Layla, you made it," David said, his gaze locked on Leo. "And who's this?" "David, Isabel, this is Leo," Layla said, her voice miraculously steady. "A pleasure," Leo said, shaking David's hand. His grip was firm. Layla's told me so much about you. He said it with such genuine warmth that David seemed thrown off balance. As the two men talked, Leo effortlessly wove in details about his fake career. He was so believable that Layla almost forgot it was all a lie. Isabel, the perfect girlfriend, watched them with quiet interest. Then David made his move. He gave a condescending little smile. I see Layla managed to be on time for once. That's a miracle. It was a tiny cut meant to make her look small. Layla felt her face grow hot, her old insecurities rushing back. But before she could speak, Leo chuckled softly. He pulled her just a little closer. I don't know, Leo said, his voice low and intimate, meant just for their small group. I find I don't mind waiting for the best things in life. The air crackled. David's smile vanished. Isabel looked impressed, and Layla's heart did a complete somersault in her chest. It was the perfect thing to say. The kind of thing a real boyfriend who truly adored you would say. For the rest of the night, Leo never broke character. He brought her drinks, listened intently to her stories, and made her laugh with quiet jokes. For a few hours, the fake felt more real and more right than anything she'd ever had with David. As they left, David looked genuinely unsettled. It was interesting to meet you, Leo, he said, his voice tight. You too, Leo replied, his smile never fading. Take care. Walking away, arm in arm, Layla felt a surge of pure triumph. She had won. She had shown him she was better than fine. But as the elevator doors closed, cutting off the party's noise, the act ended. Leo dropped her arm. The charming, confident man vanished, and the quiet, unreadable co-worker returned. The silence in the car was heavy. Layla's victory felt hollow. The most dangerous thing had happened. She had gotten a taste of what it would be like to be with a man like Leo, and now she desperately wanted it to be real, and the way he had looked at her when he said those words. Layla was left wondering, was any of it real? The silence in the car was heavy and uncomfortable. Leo drove with his usual focus, but the easy connection from the party was gone. Layla stared out the window, watching the city lights blur together. Her mind kept replaying the night, Leo's protective hand on her back, the way he stood up for her, the warmth in his eyes that had felt so genuine. Thank you, she said softly, breaking the quiet. You were amazing back there. It was the plan, he replied, his eyes never leaving the road. His tone was neutral, professional. The words stung more than they should have. Of course, it was just part of their agreement, but it hadn't felt that way to her. The plan might need more work, Layla said, a new idea forming. David looked suspicious at the end. What if he tries to check your story? We need to be more prepared. Leo glanced at her briefly. What do you suggest? We need practice, she said, her voice gaining confidence. A real date. No audience, just us getting used to being a couple. We need more stories, more inside jokes, things that look real. Leo was quiet for a moment, considering. Okay, he finally said. When? Tomorrow. The next evening, they sat across from each other in a small, cozy Italian restaurant, a world away from the fancy rooftop bar. The pressure was off, but Layla felt even more nervous. So, she began, playing with her napkin. Tell me something real about you. Not the fake backstory. What do you actually like? Leo looked at her, a faint smile touching his lips. I like old black and white movies. The ones where people actually talk to each other instead of just blowing things up. Layla laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Okay, that's a start. My turn. I'm secretly terrified of pigeons. Why? They have those weird, jerky heads. It's creepy. They both laughed, and the tension began to melt away. They talked for hours. She learned he grew up by the ocean and missed the sound of the waves. He learned she'd wanted to be a painter before choosing a more practical career in marketing. They shared a dessert, and when Leo reached across the table to steal a bite of her tiramisu, his hand briefly brushed hers. A simple touch, but this time it felt different. This time it felt real. Walking back to their cars under the starry sky, Layla felt happier than she had in months. This didn't feel like practice anymore. Thank you for tonight, she said, as they reached her car. For everything. Any time, Layla, he said, his voice soft. He was standing close, so close she could see the gold flecks in his brown eyes. The streetlight cast a warm glow on his face, and her heart started pounding. This was the moment. If he were her real boyfriend, he would kiss her goodnight. She leaned in slightly, her eyes fluttering closed, but the kiss never came. When she opened her eyes, Leo had taken a small step back. The warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by that same guarded look from the car after the party. "I should let you get home," he said gently but firmly. "Good night, Layla." He turned and walked to his own car, leaving her standing alone in the quiet parking lot. The rejection felt like a cold splash of reality. Her perfect practice date had ended with the one thing she hadn't practiced for, a broken heart. And the worst part was, she had no one to blame but herself. She was falling for her fake boyfriend, and he was clearly determined to keep this just business. The next week at the office felt like torture for Layla. Leo was polite and professional, but the warmth from their practice date was completely gone. Every time she tried to talk to him, he found a reason to be busy or quickly ended the conversation. The rejection hurt, but it also made her curious. Why was he pulling away so hard? Was it really just about keeping their arrangement professional, or was there something more going on? During her lunch break, determined to clear the air, Layla went to his desk. He was on the phone with his back to her. As she approached, she noticed a leather-bound sketchbook peeking out of his open messenger bag. It looked old and well-used, covered in pencil smudges. Knowing she shouldn't, but unable to stop herself, she carefully pulled it out. The first page took her breath away. It was a stunning, detailed portrait of an elderly woman's hands, every wrinkle and vein drawn with such care they looked almost alive. She flipped through more pages, beautiful cityscapes, studies of light through windows, and then her heart stopped. There she was. It was a drawing of her from their practice date, leaning across the table while laughing. Underneath, in neat handwriting, it said, "Layla mid-laugh, the real one." Before she could process this, Leo's voice cut through her thoughts, cold and sharp. "What are you doing?" He stood there, his face pale with an anger she'd never seen before. He snatched the sketchbook from her hands. "Leo, I'm so sorry, These are private," he said, his voice low and tight. He held the book close to his chest like it was a treasure. "You had no right, I know. I just wanted to understand why you've been so distant. These drawings are incredible. Why are you hiding this amazing talent?" He stared at her, conflict clear in his eyes. The office was empty around them. Finally, he let out a slow breath, the anger fading to reveal something much sadder. "Because this isn't just a hobby," he said quietly. He opened the sketchbook to the last page and showed her a small, stylized signature. Arrow. Layla felt like the air had been knocked out of her. She knew that name. Everyone in the creative world did. Arrow was a viral art sensation, an anonymous artist whose digital pieces sold for thousands online. David's company had been desperately trying to find and hire Arrow for a major campaign for months. "Your Arrow?" she whispered, feeling all the pieces crash together in her mind. His quiet nature, his need for privacy, why a simple graphic design job was just a cover. All this time, "You're famous." "Not famous," he corrected, closing the book carefully. "Anonymous, and I want to keep it that way. This," he gestured between them, "this fake dating, the office attention, it puts everything at risk. The last thing I need is someone like David connecting the dots." He wasn't just pushing her away because of their fake relationship. He was protecting his entire secret life, and she had almost exposed him without even realizing it. Layla looked at the drawing of herself again, at the caption that called her the real one. He had seen a version of her that no one else did, and now she was the only person who knew the real him. The game had just changed completely. The air in the empty office felt thick with tension. Layla stared at Leo, truly seeing him for the first time. The quiet co-worker was gone, replaced by this incredibly talented, secretive artist. The man who had drawn her with such care and called her the real one. "Leo," she began, her voice soft with awe, "I would never tell anyone. Your secret is safe with me." He studied her face, his defensive posture slowly relaxing. "I know," he finally said. I've worked so hard to build this separate life. A life where I'm judged for my art, not my personality or my past. I understand, she whispered, her heart aching for him. They stood in silence for a moment, the tension between them shifting from anger to something else entirely, something vulnerable and electric. I should get back to work, Leo said, but he made no move to leave. Me too, Layla said, equally still. Their eyes locked, and the space between them seemed to shrink. Layla's heart hammered against her ribs. This was different from their practice date. There were no rules now, no performance. This was just them, two people with all their guards down. Leo reached out slowly, his fingers gently brushing a stray hair from her cheek. His touch was warm, sending shivers through her entire body. Layla, he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. That was all the encouragement she needed. She rose on her toes, her eyes fluttering closed as she leaned in. Suddenly, the main office door swung open with a loud bang. Hey, has anyone seen the Thompson files? Mark, Layla's editor, stood in the doorway, looking between them with raised eyebrows. Leo immediately stepped back, his professional mask slamming back into place. Just heading to a meeting, Leo said smoothly, grabbing his sketchbook and walking away without another glance at Layla. The moment was shattered. For the rest of the day, Layla couldn't concentrate. All she could think about was that almost kiss, the look in Leo's eyes, the way he'd said her name. That evening, as she was packing up to leave, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. Leo, I'm sorry about earlier. This is getting complicated. Layla, complicated how? Leo, I think you know. Layla, maybe complicated is okay sometimes. There was a long pause before his response came through. Leo, meet me at the art museum tomorrow? 2 p.m., not as practice, as us. Layla's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't part of their fake relationship plan. This was something real. She typed back with trembling fingers. Layla, I'll be there. As she put her phone away, a mix of excitement and fear coursed through her. Their fake relationship had officially become all too real, and she had no idea where it would lead. The art museum was quiet and peaceful, a world away from their busy office. Layla stood near the entrance, nervously smoothing her dress. Had she misunderstood? Was this still part of their act? Then she saw him. Leo was walking toward her, dressed in simple jeans and a dark jacket, instead of his usual office clothes. He looked more like the artist he secretly was. Hi, he said, his voice soft in the quiet space. Hi, she replied, suddenly feeling shy. They walked through the galleries without talking much, letting the beautiful art speak for them. In a room full of modern paintings, Leo stopped before a colorful, abstract canvas. This one reminds me of you, he said quietly. Layla looked at the painting, a beautiful mix of warm colors that somehow looked both wild and perfectly balanced. Why? It's complex, he said, his eyes meeting hers. Beautiful, but with so much happening under the surface. It takes time to really appreciate it. Her breath caught in her throat. No one had ever seen her that way before. They continued walking, their hands occasionally brushing against each other. Each touch felt electric, meaningful. In a quiet corner between galleries, Leo stopped and turned to her. Layla, he began, his voice serious. There's something important I need to... Just then her phone buzzed loudly in her purse. The sound echoed through the quiet space. She fumbled to silence it, but not before seeing David's name on the screen. It's David, she said, confused. He never calls me. Answer it, Leo said, his expression unreadable. She put the phone on speaker. David? Layla, his voice was tense. We need to talk. It's important. What is it? There was a long pause. It's about Leo. Layla's eyes snapped to Leo's. He didn't look surprised at all. What about him? She asked, her voice tight. I did some checking after the party, David said. Your perfect boyfriend isn't who he says he is. I know, Layla interrupted, her voice steady. He's Arrow. The silence on the other end was complete. You knew? David finally sputtered. And you didn't tell me? My company has been searching for him for months. That was his secret to share, not mine, Layla said firmly. Was that all you wanted? No. David's voice turned cold. There's an important industry gala next week. Bring him. If he's really who you say he is, he should have no problem showing up. The line went dead. Layla looked at Leo, her heart pounding. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he'd... It's okay, Leo said, though his face was pale. I knew this might happen. What do you want to do? She asked. He was quiet for a long moment, looking at the painting behind her. Then his eyes met hers, clear and determined. Tell him we'll be there, Leo said. It's time I stopped hiding. The week before, the gala felt completely different from their first party preparation. Back then, they were just acting. Now there was a new tension in the air, a mix of nervousness and something deeper, something real. Leo seemed quieter than usual, but there was a new determination in his eyes. The night of the gala, when Layla opened her apartment door, her breath caught. Leo looked handsome in his suit, but it was the look in his eyes that truly stunned her. Clear, focused, and completely honest. You look beautiful, he said, his voice soft but sure. Thank you, she managed to reply. You look ready. He offered her his arm, and she took it, her hand fitting perfectly in the crook of his elbow. It felt natural. It felt right. The gala was even grander than David's rooftop party. The room glittered with the city's most important people from the art and business worlds. Camera flashes popped around them. Across the crowded ballroom, Layla spotted David watching them with a smug, expectant look. He was waiting for a scene. He was waiting for Leo to be exposed. But Leo's confidence never wavered. He guided Layla through the crowd with a quiet grace that drew admiring glances, not suspicion. David couldn't wait any longer. He cut through the crowd, Isabel following nervously behind him. Leo, David announced loudly, drawing attention from those nearby. Or should I call you Arrow? A hush fell over their immediate circle. The name Arrow spread through the crowd in excited whispers. All eyes turned to them. Leo didn't flinch. He simply smiled, a calm, genuine smile. Leo is fine, he said, his voice carrying easily in the sudden quiet. You've been hiding your identity from everyone, David accused, his voice growing louder for the audience. You've been lying to us all. You're right, Leo said calmly, and the crowd gasped. He turned, not to David, but to Layla, his gaze softening. I have been hiding. I was afraid that if people knew who I was, they would only see the artist, not the man. They would want something from me. He reached for Layla's hand, his touch firm and sure. But one person saw me anyway, the real me. Not Arrow, not the artist, just Leo. He turned back to the stunned crowd, his voice clear and strong. My name is Leo, and I am Arrow. The silence broke into a wave of excited murmurs and applause. People surged forward, not to accuse, but to congratulate him, to shake his hand. David stood frozen, his plan having completely backfired. He hadn't exposed a fraud. He had unveiled an artist everyone admired. Through it all, Leo kept hold of Layla's hand, anchoring himself to her in the storm of attention. He leaned close. His words meant only for her. You were worth coming out of hiding for. In that moment, surrounded by the glittering crowd, Layla knew. The pretending was over, every bit of it. What was left was something real, something strong and something truly theirs. The noise of the gala faded as Leo led Layla through a side door onto a quiet balcony. The cool night air felt refreshing after the crowded ballroom. Below them, the city lights twinkled like a sky full of stars. For a long moment, they stood in comfortable silence, their hands still linked. Then Leo turned to face her, his expression serious in the soft moonlight. It's over, he said softly. All of it. The pretending, the hiding. Layla's heart beat faster. What does that mean for us? It means this, he whispered. He gently cupped her face in his hands, his touch both tender and certain. This time there was no interruption, no pulling away. When his lips met hers, it was nothing like she had imagined. This wasn't a performance or practice. It felt like a promise, real, honest, and filled with all the feelings they hadn't yet put into words. When they finally separated, both were breathless. "I think I started falling for you that first day in my office," Leo admitted, his forehead resting against hers. "When you asked me to be your fake boyfriend, no one had ever seen me as someone who could be bold. And I started falling for you when you stood up for me at that first party," Layla whispered. "You saw the real me when I was too busy pretending to be someone else." They stood wrapped in each other's arms. The city spread out before them like a canvas of new beginnings. 1 year later, the art gallery was filled with people, but Layla only had eyes for one person. Leo stood proudly beside his most personal painting yet, a beautiful portrait of the two of them. Not as they were at a gala or party, but as they were on their museum date. It was titled The Real Beginning. Across the room, David watched them with newfound respect in his eyes. He had lost the girl, but he had gained something more valuable, a lesson in humility. Later that evening, as they walked home hand in hand, Leo stopped under a warm street lamp. "It's funny," he said, pulling her close. "We started with a fake story for everyone else and found a real one for ourselves." Layla smiled, leaning into his embrace. "The best stories usually work out that way." And under the gentle glow of the city lights, they continued writing their story together, no longer pretending, no longer hiding, but simply completely in love. And that's the beautiful story of Layla and Leo. What did you think of their journey from fake to real? What was your favorite moment? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.